to me before? Do you yell?
No, don't yell. And now we're recording.
All right.
They're getting that pre-roll banter that everyone loves as they just kind of lean in the podcast.
You can't script this kind of stuff.
No, you can't. We can't stop it. We're already recording.
That's right.
Welcome back to this new episode of Relative Talk, a wide-ranging podcast. I'm your host, John LaLoggia, with my guest today, my cousin, Nick P. Williams. Nick, how are you?
I'm great. Cousin John, it's great to see you. Thank you for the invite.
Does the P stand for Paul?
It does.
Is that from the Bible?
It is ostensibly from the Bible. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what inspired my parents to name me that. I don't think so.
No, probably. I mean, my name's John with an H. There's a lot of. I mean, we have another cousin, Paul, and I think it's a couple other people's middle names. That's a popular one.
We have a lot of repeated names in our family.
Yeah,
it happens. We have too many people.
So we have 27 first cousins on alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And
I'm the eldest.
That's true. You are, out of the 27, you are the eldest.
Yeah, very old.
And I'd like to say I learned a lot of life lessons from you, but sadly, no. You basically taught me what not to do, which is.
I was going to say, if there are, I'd like to know what those words of wisdom or those actions were that guided your youth, but I doubt that's very true.
Well, I appreciate you joining us live from Phoenix, Arizona. You're the father of three young boys, so I appreciate the time. I know it's limited. I'm sure your wife is outside that door wondering when you're going to come out. At least my wife is. She's like, when is this?
We made special plans for this afternoon, actually. I'm the only one home right now, and that's a rarity.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude. So this podcast must be, pretty top priority.
Big deal. Big deal.
This is a big deal. That reminds me, just got to get a couple things out of the way, a couple ad reads. This podcast is sponsored by the book Shitty Jobs, The Guide to Surviving the Recession. It's a great book. If you ever had a job you didn't like, you can find it on Google, Apple, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, basically anywhere you get books. So check it out. Nick, let's talk about a couple of things, because you are the elder statesman, so you have a lot of wisdom. You are a graduate of the University of Notre Dame. You are an educator. You have a master's in what exactly? Mathematics?
No, I have my second master's is in measurement and statistics and assessment. First one is just in teaching in education.
My stats class in grad school was probably one of the hardest classes I've ever had to take.
I hear that a lot. Yeah, that's true.
In my life, it was research methods 1. Okay, research methods 2 almost broke my brain. It was so.
Yeah, in a lot of grad programs, the quant stats class is really tough.
But it has helped me revamp my softball lineup construction per sabermetrics. So it did pay off. That grad school education did pay off because we are killing it in softball. So that's good.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I want to talk about a couple things. Some TV
Hold on.
shows.
Can I just say real quickly? I'm sorry to interrupt already. I wanted to wait until at least minute 12 before I started talking over you, but
it's fine.
Don't we have a special birthday today?
Happy birthday to my mother.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Aunt Mary. I know she's an avid listener of the pod.
Well, it's interesting to say that. She's not. In fact, she would prefer not to listen. Now, she's a wonderful mother. She loves me. I did call her, and I FaceTimed her with my son while he was on the swing, so I want, looking in the camera, I'm a good son. But this is true. My dad does listen to this podcast. I think he represents 75% of the audience who listens to this podcast. And he listens to it. It's very sweet. He listens to it. He listens to the entirety of it. But my mom, and he'll do it, he's not bothering anyone. He'll do it in the confines of his office. My mom we'll walk back and forth, and she'll open the door, and she'll be like, "He's still talking." So she's just like, and the podcast was me and my sister, my older sister Teresa, and we were sharing our thoughts and opinions about world events and TV shows we liked and other things. And this couldn't be more personal content for my mom to hear what her adult children have to say, their thoughts and feelings on the world. And she is so uninterested in what we have to say and would prefer me to not talk.
No,
And
but she's
then
just not interested in what you have to say. Maybe.
100%. Yeah. But then she'll watch like MSNBC for like 20 hours about the same Trump coverage, or read her fourth, biography about the Roosevelts. And it's like, or watch Bridge of Spies for the 10th time, which is such a boring movie that the plot goes nowhere. It's so boring. And then has the audacity to diss Dunkirk. Dunkirk is a masterpiece.
That's a good film.
It's a great film. And she said it was boring. I'm like, are you crazy? But happy birthday, Mom. I know you're not listening, but I do love you. I know you're definitely not listening.
Said happy birthday.
All that said, happy birthday.
I would also just like to, my other top of the pod remark that I wanted to make is that when you called me and invited me, I told you I'm honored. And then the second thing out of my mouth was, I'm a little worried. While being honored, I'm a little worried that I got the invite before Zach and Frank, which are we were talking about the order of 27. Those are, I think they are number 6 and 8. Are you the oldest of the three?
Yes.
Oh, then there's 7 and 8. So, I said, I'm a little worried that I got the invite before them. I might rankle some people. And you said, that's actually not 100% true.
It's 50%
Zach has
true.
been invited. He just can't find any time. He can't find an hour to get on the horn here.
Which, and I replied to him. I said, I love you, comma, but I don't believe you. So, and then Frank.
So Zach's too busy, and Frank, you're just worried about.
100%, because Frank is the ultimate guest. Frank is the preferred guest over Zach. No offense, Zach, but because Frank has some of the best stories in the world. And I mean, I would have to tell them, but because he probably doesn't remember, but he is such an interesting person. I don't know if I told you this. I wrote a pilot based off of my book. And I've submitted it a couple places, but a key character is Frank.
The roommate Frank.
The roommate Frank. And when we live together, because we're roommates, it's about a 32-year-old social media manager, and it's called Remote, and it's essentially a workplace comedy that like again. So it's a flip on the traditional workplace comedy. So The Office, Mary Tyler Moore Show, all these shows are trying to fit in your personal life at work.
Mm-hmm. And
Remote is the complete opposite. It's a 32-year-old social media manager, also making fun of social media because it's so weird yet so powerful. Like it's such a bizarre field to work in that I just kind of fell into. So it's a commentary on that, but it's also fitting in your personal life while you're at home, and then you're trying to fit in work while you're living your life, which is a lot of people can relate to that because everyone has worked from home. So, and also remote, the isolation of what it feels like to work from home. So, but anyway, he's a key character in that. And there is an entire episode. I have this cork board of like breaking out scenes of different acts. Mm-hmm. And I wrote the pilot, but there is another episode. Like it's already in my head. I could, if I had time and I wasn't just tired and stressed out from my son, I could bang this out in like I could bang this out like 4 hours. And it's called Bachelor Party River. And you know what I'm talking about. That's the whole episode. And there's so many scenes within that are just, I was thinking about it. I'm like, this writes itself. Here's the opening scene. Here's Here's this other scene, culminates in the end. You got all these different characters, his friends. Like,
oh, it's incredible.
One of the greatest lines was when he was, so full disclosure. So Frank is my cousin. He's your younger brother.
My brother.
And we had to go for his bachelor party. He took us down. I think it was a 26-mile canoe ride, something like that.
Something like that.
It was ridiculous. I'm not an outdoorsman. You're
John, give yourself some. Oh no, you're not. That's right.
No. I did go outside yesterday a little bit in poor air quality, so there's something to be said there, or just a poor choice overall. But so his not his best man, but the guy Dave Longwell, one of his buddies who was organizing this, went to him before he decided to do this and said, Frank, like, this is the hardest, this is the hardest one. This is like 26 miles. I don't know if everyone is going to want to do this. This is going to take all day. There were multiple other options, like 2 miles, 6. And Frank replied, he goes, I don't care. He goes, people are going to hate it. He goes, but I don't care. It's my bachelor party, and that's what I'm doing. He goes, and people are going to hate it, and I don't care.
With glee on his face, I remember him saying that when talking about happy. You and Zach, especially. I was like, they're going to hate it.
Zach and I were 1 and 2 of the people he was most excited to see just struggle. And that was a day I woke up and I just knew, like, no matter, like, mind over matter. There's going to be good days and bad days. You decide how it's going to go. There was nothing I could do to make that day good. Like, that day was going to suck. I knew it from the second I woke up, and it was like 7 a.m. and it was so early. And I still think
if you would have had that second hobo bag, you would have been in pretty good shape.
That's another thing, hobo bags. So this is. Do you want to explain what a hobo bag is? Because this is definitely part of the.
It's an aluminum foil pouch that had a bunch of ground beef, diced vegetables, and maybe some seasonings in it. The idea is that you take these foil pouches of food, I think potatoes sliced up in there as well, and you bury them in some hot coals.
In the ground, in the dirt. This is all we had to eat all day. And let the only sustenance we had.
And you let it cook in the foil pouch, so it's not a lot of fuss. Isn't a hard preparation. But you actually have to make the pouches the night before. Yeah, and then you actually have to make the fire.
Yeah, but it doesn't take hours to cook.
You have to wait forever for it to cook because the fire isn't hot enough. There was some prep into it, and it's a great thought. I think it's a great concept. It was poorly executed and wasn't well received by some members of our party that afternoon when we were on hour 12 of our canoe trip.
Yeah, none of it was thought out, which is like that could be Frank in a nutshell. Like, just like I should have thought about this before I did it. And I'll never forget. So the bachelor party, so this was a 26-mile canoe ride. It sucked. It was not fun for us. Frank had a great time. He thought it was hilarious. We capsized, Zach and I, the two least outdoorsmen, we capsized 3 different times and fell in the river. I lost 1 shirt and a pair of sunglasses, and it was freezing. And so we tipped 3 different times. No one tipped once. We tipped 3 times. Also, we had 1 paddle because you had forgotten your paddle and I had given you mine.
Hold on, that is not true because I was having a bad morning.
You were in the bathroom and you were late.
I was late because I was I had to leave some things of myself from the night before.
That's probably the drunkest I've ever seen you the night before in your life.
It was bad. It was one of the.
I have it on video. Like, it's forever in the cloud.
One of the top 3 for me for sure. And
it was so fun the night before.
It was a great time. I just don't remember much of it. And the next morning I was not in good shape. They were about to leave me, and someone picked up my paddle. I took it off the boat. I took it off the bus. I did not take it into the bathroom with me at the place. So someone else messed up, not me.
Okay,
that's all fine. Of his little friends were impatient about getting on the river.
Yeah. which was
So
going to take all day.
I
Really?
blame Adam or somebody else, not me.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So we and you're like, hey, I need a paddle. I'm like, here, take mine. Thinking, I'm surely we have extra paddles, which we did not. So I'm sitting in the front of the canoe. Zach is paddling with one paddle the entire time. He paddled 26 miles, and
It's a
we are
workout for him.
and we are so one. We've capsized 3 times, and then we are so far behind everybody else. We hadn't seen a soul in about 4 hours. So there was one point where we were so miserable we had stopped talking. Him and I just stopped talking. We were just that upset. And it might have been over an hour where like no one said a fucking word, and we're just going down the canoe, and I'm just sitting there, in the front, and I can hear him paddling like really, really hard because he just wants to get to the end. And then I hear the paddle flip back into the boat, slam like on the ground, and then him just being like, I hate this. Like, as loud as he could, screaming into the void of nothing. We're in the middle of nowhere, like on mile 14. We're not even close to being done. It's starting to get dark. And dude, I had to like I laughed. I thought it was the funniest thing ever, but I didn't want to laugh because I didn't want to upset him because he was the only way I was gonna get home because we had one paddle and I sure as shit wasn't gonna paddle. So I was like biting my fist trying not to laugh. Dude, it killed me. We like hadn't talked for an hour and then he just screams, I hate this out of nowhere. It killed me. So again, this episode will write itself. It's literally been sitting up there for a while. I just haven't had the energy to write it, but it's Bachelor Party River.
It might end up being its own feature film. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Netflix, if you're listening, and let's face it, you probably are, would love to talk. You can reach me anytime.
Who's more likely to be listening to this podcast right now, Netflix or Aunt Mary?
Netflix, 100%. That's an easy answer. I'm sure there's some low level coordinator that's like, what random podcast can I listen to? Where my mom is like, not listening to that. Oh, let's watch Bridge of Spies. So, talking about television, first of all, we want to talk about top TV that we're watching right now. So my picks, I've talked about Succession ad nauseum with my sister Teresa. Check out episode 1. The Bear season 2, which has been phenomenal. It's an FX show on Hulu, but it's incredible. Black Mirror season 6, which has been phenomenal. And then I know you have a couple picks as well that I'm definitely going to start one of them.
If I can just respond real quickly, Succession was one that this will come up again later. It's a show that I watched. I knew my wife was not going to be into, and that was just one of mine. So I was always watching it like by myself on my phone sometimes. But a fantastic show. Not quite the same level of dissatisfaction at the end as I had with Game of Thrones, but I was a little miffed with the Shiv piece at the very end. I didn't like how they were sort of holding back some of the explainer on why she made the about face after they had their night together with in the kitchen with her brothers. So I was a little disappointed with that. Otherwise, the show was phenomenal. I truly enjoyed myself, and it stands alone, especially in the last few years of like, what show was everybody just talking about every week? We haven't had one since Game of Thrones, and I don't know when the next one will come.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. It was interesting. Jesse Armstrong talked about that Shiv had decided that she was going to block the deal in favor of Kendall. She was going to vote no.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you remember that scene, the morning of, he's sitting in his dad's chair and he's talking to Stewie and his feet on his desk. And then they cut to Shiv and Jesse Armstrong was like, and I think it just, something in her was like, I can't do it. Like, just
And
to
I can get
see.
on board with it. I just feel like I didn't, not that I need to be shown everything so explicitly all the time,
Yeah.
but I just felt like I wasn't quite tracking. And then because there was a little bit of lack of setup there, the next scene with the three of them in the adjacent boardroom, I thought was missing some of the oomph or the power because I wasn't quite tracking where everyone was. But it still took away so little because of how powerful those performances were, and just how well written the whole season and the whole series was. It was phenomenal. I mean, again, I don't want to. I'm bringing that up as such a minor. In my mind, it was kind of a minor quibble. I don't want to act like I didn't enjoy it. Loved that show, and the bear is phenomenal. Finally watched the first 2 episodes of season 2, and
How great is the soundtrack?
oh,
The
it was
music.
fantastic.
The
What
music
was
is so good. I've been
Yeah.
listening to the season 2 soundtrack for the last week, or the last couple days or whatever. The music is part of the show. Like, it's all the feels. It hits perfectly.
Yeah. When
It's incredible.
I think the first episode starts with that Bruce Hornsby song, and then episode 2, I forget how they ended it, but there were so many things where I was so glad to be back in that world.
Yes.
When when Richie and what's the guy's name, Falk, when they find the mold and they're yelling at each other, when they're whisper yelling at each other, I was just like, oh my god, I miss these guys. This is so great.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's so many. There's a couple banger episodes. There's one in particular I think is going to be up for an Emmy nomination. It's so good. Episode 6, Fishes. I won't spoil it for you.
Okay.
You'll get there, but it's phenomenal. And you
Is that
watch
the one about the Feast of the Seven Fishes?
Yes.
Okay.
The Diplomat and Ted Lasso are some other picks that you had, right?
So most recently, my favorite ones that I'm currently or have just finished. There's a show on Apple TV called Silo,
which I have to start watching. It's like The Ringer has ranked that so high on top streaming shows. They have the streaming guide.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm gonna share my screen a little bit.
I like it when good people agree with me. That's fantastic.
Can you see my screen?
No.
What about right now?
Oh yeah, it went black, so I think something good's happening. You didn't do this on any of the other episodes, did you?
No, I'm getting, I break out all the tech when you come on, all right?
Oh, right, wonderful.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so 1, The Bear, we've already hit that. 2, Black Mirror. I have to give myself a pat on the back. I've already hit 1 and 2. 3 is Silo, which obviously I have to watch. 4 is The Righteous Gemstones. Jake Seller, my buddy, and now he's in our family because he married our cousin Martha.
Yes, he did.
He is obsessed with The Righteous Gemstones, and
congrats to both of them and their new baby.
Yes, little Eli, who looks 100% like a Sellers and nothing like Martha. He looks like a tiny Jake. He looks nothing like Martha. He's so cute though. Oh my gosh! Yeah, have you seen pictures of him?
I've seen pictures, but this is the thing: is I'm in Arizona, and so I don't get to see everybody as much as I want to this summer, and then again in September. Cousin's weddings, great time for everybody, and I get to see everybody.
That's true.
Get to meet some new cousins I haven't met before. Very excited.
That's true, and we will be able to go to Katie's wedding in July and Maria's wedding actually in September, so that'll be fun.
Well, that's good because Maria's your sister, so I'm glad you're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, these are some of the top shows. But so The Diplomat, Alex just finished it. You really liked it.
Phenomenal show.
I have a thing. Ted Lasso. First of all, you liked White Lotus, right? Did you see White Lotus?
Yes, I liked White Lotus. I liked season 2
better.
I liked a lot about season 2. It's not my favorite show ever, but I really enjoyed both seasons.
There's a dig about people that like Ted Lasso. Basically like the Daphne character. She's like, we love Ted Lasso, and she's like not the smartest person in the world.
Oh yeah.
It's a great Ted Lasso is a great feel good show, and I get it. I get it. It's a good show. I get why a lot of people like it, but I think part of Sudeikis is like, I can't believe this is the thing that hit, because I've done so much better work. I've done so, like, he's done so many. He's been in movies. He was on SNL. He's done his work. His plethora and his breadth of work has been so much better than what he does on Ted Lasso. That I think, I've watched him in interviews, and I think he's a little surprised. Like, he's like, I'm obviously thrilled to be on the show. I love it. It's great. But part of me thinks, like, he's probably like, I can't believe this is the thing that hit. Like, I would have never thought this would have been the biggest thing I would have ever done in my career, considering all the other great work that I had done.
I totally agree. But obviously there are worse things you could be, tied to for the rest of your career. I mean,
of course. And he's so grateful. He's a nice guy, but
yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm like, I can't believe it.
I've really liked it. I feel like it's lost some steam.
Do you think it was
third season?
Do you think it was ignited by the pandemic? That people just needed
so
a good show?
Part of the problem is I think that Ted Lasso, the character is was a little bit one note, or the show had like one speed. And then I think it gained all that momentum because of the pandemic. And then I feel like it's riding some different social movements, and you see a lot of, I feel like the writers are influenced by a lot of what's going on around them, which a lot of them were. I remember feeling this way about the very final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine when it moved over to NBC, in the same way, where the show, it just kind of changes tone, or it feels a little bit different. And I think because it got populated during the pandemic, people kind of had to, like, hung a lot of their own stuff on there, and now they're dealing with a lot of people's personal traumas and different issues,
mental health stuff. Yeah,
it's taken on a lot of water. It's carrying a lot of baggage from different things, and I feel like it's struggling under the weight of that. In full disclosure, this is one of the shows that my wife and I watch together, and there are certain shows.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so we have a topic. What shows do you watch by yourself, and what shows do you watch with your significant other or spouse?
And this is one of those shows that I've had to. I decided this is one that we're watching together. We really like it. During the pandemic, it put us in a great mood. We loved looking forward to it and watching it together. She falls asleep during shows a lot, and so we haven't made it all the way. And she'll also just kind of give up on shows and not get a little cold on them.
You have 3 boys who are under the age of what? 6, 7, 8. Okay.
Vito's now 8, but we have 8, 6, and 4.
That's crazy. He's 8. Elliot's 9. I can't believe it.
I know. We're getting old fast. They're growing like weeds.
So she falls asleep during shows?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's an excuse, sure. But anyways, I think she also she's gotten she's cooled off on the show a little bit, so she's not always as intent to watch it, and there's just so much TV on. Anyways, I have not finished season 3 because we have not finished season 3.
Okay.
Because I chose not to just pull that away from what we were doing, and I say, I'm just going to watch this one now on my own, because that has happened. I have to audible a little bit and say, this one's now just mine.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't, like, anytime I mention a show, Alex is like, oh, I want to watch that with you, but it's every show. And I had to have a talk with her being like, we got to decide, because I can't wait anymore. Like, I got to watch some of these shows, and I can't just wait around, to watch every show. Can't be us together. Like, there's some shows that have to be just for me. So the shows we do watch together, we both love White Lotus. We both love Succession. We watch that together. The Bear, we both love. We usually watch it together, but for season 2, she was gone for 4 days, and I was alone with my 2-year-old son Theo. So I go, because of that,
That was grounds.
I go grounds. I go, I'm going to watch all 10 episodes. I watch 4 on Thursday night, and I watch 4 on Friday. Or I watch 5 on Friday. I watch 4 on Thursday, 4 on Friday, and then 2 on Saturday. She came home Sunday. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
There are certain shows that she watches that I can tolerate while they're on, but there is one show that I can't even be in the room for, and it's Big Brother. I hate that show with a passion. It is so stupid, and I can't, and we didn't have like an argument, but it was a heated discussion because I really wanted to get to the bottom. I'm like, Alex, my wife, she's whip smart. She's very successful. I go, what? Why are you watching this absolute trash? I mean, it sucks. Like Survivor, I get it. There's there's a little bit more competitive atmosphere. This is so dumb. Like, I can't believe you watch the show. Why do you like it? And she really had a great answer, and she used a sports analogy, which I think makes total sense. She goes, my wife is very successful. She runs a hotel. She manages a ton of people, revenue, a lot. It's a very high stress job, and she's very busy all day, and she's constantly making decisions. She goes, I want to watch, and she also watches shows while she's on her phone, which is probably my biggest pet peeve in the world. But she knows that about me, but she explained it. She goes, I want to watch something like Big Brother that is mindless. I need a break. I don't, I want to watch Sherlock, She's like, that's not something when I come home, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch something like Big Brother where I can be on social media and still follow this plot. She goes, you watch a 3-hour baseball game that is so boring, but you do it because, and you're on your phone too. You're on your phone checking stuff. She goes, it's the same thing. And so I was like, I get it. That's a fair analogy. So I've given her a break on that show, but I Think You Should Leave is one of my favorite shows. It's a comedy show on Netflix. I watch that by myself. She absolutely hates it because I quote it constantly. I was literally texted a meme to Ryan, my brother-in-law, Angelo, and George, who are 2 of our other cousins. No context, just a reference from the show, just randomly. And I know they'll get it. It was interesting. My dad randomly showed up today and took me out to lunch.
At your house?
Yes.
On your mom's birthday?
Yeah, I know. Dude.
Okay.
Ask him about it. But so he's been doing, ever since Theo's diagnosis, he's just been showing up randomly. Like the other day, I was like working, and I just went in my kitchen. He was like making 100 chicken wings. I go, what are you doing here? He just shows up now, like randomly. He's also retired. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm making chicken wings. I go, what? Why? And my mom's like, hi, hon. And my mom's like watching TV. I go, what are you guys doing here? He's like, Mom made this recipe. I'm just making wings. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, he just comes over and out. So he just randomly comes over. And not a great time.
Uninvited guest making chicken wings for you is pretty great.
I was grateful, but I'm like, why are you in my house? What's going on? And then today he came at a very inopportune time. He's had a bunch of meetings, so he waited around, and then we went out. And then he listened to the episode with Angelo, and he was curious about the I Think You Should Leave show. And I go, listen, I don't think you're going to think it's funny. 2, I don't think you will even understand what is going on. He goes, I want to see it. So I showed him 2 sketches.
What episode did you go with?
I showed him, I didn't even go to episodes. I showed him sketches. I showed him, I don't know if you've seen the show, but
I've watched much of, I'll tell my angle on it in a minute.
I showed him some of the two sketches that Angela and I had kind of decided that were our favorites. One was Coffin Flop, It's a
The corncob TV.
corncob TV. And I showed him that. And then I showed him that Bob Odenkirk sketch where he's that random guy.
Keep going along with the thing.
He's like, your dad and I are old friends.
Yeah, classic triples.
Classic car. So every kind
triples
of
the Barracuda.
Triples numbers, and I don't live in a hotel, but I have a wife.
She's dying.
She's beautiful, but she's dying. So I showed him those two sketches.
Did he like either of them?
He didn't laugh, which I totally expected, but he wasn't as confused as I thought. And he started. So he looked at me and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "So you just kind of just like dumb stuff." I go, "Yes." He goes, "But this doesn't make any sense." I go, "Dad, exactly. That's why it's great. That's why it's great." I said this on the last pod, but Alex and I went to a dinner one time with like couples, and it was like, how well do you know your spouse? And one of the questions, and you had to like know the answer about your spouse. It was like that. And one of the questions was, what does your husband think is funny or whatever? And Alex explained it. She goes, my husband, what he finds funny is something that is dumb and then progressively escalates and gets dumber. And then you think, okay, now we're at a level where like, this is stupid and doesn't make any sense. And he goes, then it goes another level. He goes, that's where
he's reached the most absurd level of dumbness. That's where we're at. Yeah.
The first time that ever happened to me, because as you get older, you just have a refined palette of comedy or like things that you've seen for the first time. I remember the first time it was like 2001, Family Guy was on TV, like just regular cable. And there was a character, like Peter had the main character of Family Guy hurt his knee. He just tripped and he was like, but he did it for like 5 minutes. So you're like, what the heck? And then you're like, where is this going? And then it keeps going. And then I started like crying laughing.
You get to a point where now it's absurd
it's so
how
absurd.
long it's
It's so absurd. And that's essentially that show. So that's a show she despises, which, by the way, her grandpa is an actor in LA. He's in the final episode of season 1. He's Crazy Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. That's her grandpa.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know.
So
he was like when he came for our wedding, like my friends came up to him, my improv friends, and were like, "Sir," that was like he was like a celebrity. He thought he like still talks about it, like our like rehearsal dinner, because I had friends who watched the show came up to him. He doesn't remember. Like he does a couple different cameos, and my friends were like, "You are in the greatest show I've ever seen," and he still talks. Yeah, he goes. My mother-in-law talks about it. She goes, "It made his night." He goes, he talks about it still, like that rehearsal dinner. Like it was like amazing.
Great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's great.
And the other thing too, it's like she hates it so much. I remember watching it for the first time and then being like, I paused it. I was like, your grandpa's in the show. She goes, no, he's not. I go, honey, your grandpa's in the show. He's like a crazed murderer. Like you have to come check this out. He's terrifying in this episode. And then she watched it. She was like, oh my God. And then she like called her mom. But Alex's grandpa is a Crazy Jim Davis.
So let me go back to the original premise of this question, which was about what you share with your wife and what you watch on your own.
Yeah.
We've seen some distinct examples for you, but is there a formula or a criteria of the things that you both enjoy?
We both enjoy. I think we both enjoy great writing, and I think White Lotus, Succession. I mean, there's a writer strike happening right now, because like no one wants to pay writers, but like these are the greatest shows: Sopranos, Mad Men. No AI could ever write something like that. It's so interesting and unique, and I think really great characters
Mm-hmm.
that aren't necessarily likable. They're real, you know. I think like all, you know, sort of the anti-hero with like Tony Soprano
Mm-hmm.
or Walter White, or you know, Breaking Bad with Saul Goodman, or
Yeah.
Don Draper, like people you shouldn't aspire to be, but like,
Well,
you
yeah.
know, are real people. But so I think that's the criteria, like really great characters. Um, and I think particularly for my wife, there's got to be a hook, like something to hook her in. Like I think
Okay.
White Lotus, one, she works in the hospitality industry, so I think right there she was interested. But the simple framing device of trying to figure out who dies, like
Yeah,
they show
yeah.
the dead body in the beginning, and then 1 week earlier, and then we meet all the characters and see it play out. Like
Mm-hmm.
that framing device, like that is something that really appeals to her. Succession, I think her in the corporate world, working in the working world, me as well. I think that really appeals to us too. So I think things that are relatable. Mad Men's my favorite drama of all time, but
Yeah.
I've worked in for agencies or with agencies, and I've been a copywriter, and I've, you know, I have that experience, and I've worked in the creative field, and so it's endlessly fascinating when it gets into the psychology. I think that's the thing for me when it gets into the psychology of a human being and why they do the things that they do. Like Matt Weiner, when he created Mad Men, he goes, I wanted to create a show where um, everyone has all of these problems and issues, but nobody talks about them. And
Mm-hmm.
this is how it manifests itself in these negative ways:
Interesting.
infidelity,
Okay.
drinking, smoking, lying, cheating, you know, these other things, where all this trauma that Don Draper had or whatever, it's like everyone in that show needed to see a therapist or talk to somebody. But in the 60s, you didn't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you don't do that, that can manifest itself in other negative and detrimental ways. So I think that's that. And so
Yeah.
I think those tenets are things that we find fascinating. The psychology of the human being, why someone does what they do, and the reasons for that, and the reasons for doing something, the reasons for not doing something. And
Yeah,
that's why I think we love The Bear too. All that
Mm-hmm.
history, all that trauma. Like, why is Carmen like that? Well, you learn more about his family, and you really figure out why.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting.
That's a great point. That's
So what about you? What's the criteria?
I've never been able to really put my finger on it because whether it's the Office, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, those are shows that we watched. Well, actually, Breaking Bad. Let me put a pin in that. Those are shows that we've watched to completion and really loved together. And I don't know that those are the ones that are sort of like the monoculture. Like those are the best of TV,
Yeah.
and so we've always loved those. There's other
Alex and
smaller
I watched
shows.
Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad as well, but we didn't know each other yet for Game of Thrones, so we didn't watch that together.
Yes, Robin and I started dating during Game of Thrones, and
Okay.
I kind of caught her up, and we watched like seasons 4 through
Now was
8
she
together.
into that show, or did you kind of have to like nudge her and be like, "Hey, you should get into this"?
She was watching. She watched a little bit of it, but I kind of nudged her and said, "You should keep watching this one."
I'm interested. What is she like? What is she like to watch?
She's very. It sounds like she's similar to Alex in the sense that she likes. There's a lot of reality show stuff. There's a lot of escapism there.
Yes.
Similar to my parents, she also sort of for that escapist reason, she loves a good syndicated sitcom. She would watch.
Dude,
she would choose a rerun of.
I cannot do it.
She would choose a rerun of King of Queens
or
the Nanny over just about anything. And some of that stuff I don't really like, but then there were times where she started she went through a phase where she was watching like Golden Girls reruns. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good.
Dude, that's different. Golden Girls is legit. I've watched a couple episodes of Golden Girls. It's good.
It's in the same vein. Yes, and we also we watched like old Cheers together. That's fantastic.
Cheers is great. Yeah, there's a couple. Seinfeld. Seinfeld's a 3-camera, sitcom, but like Seinfeld's my favorite comedy of all time.
She
And that's a
she hadn't
studio
been a
audience.
big Seinfeld fan.
Oh my
I think
God.
that's part of it for me. I watch some, but part of it for me is I can't do the Larry David type of like cringy situations that
Oh
like
my
George would
God.
find himself in, or that
Yes.
Larry David finds himself in
Okay.
Curb. I can't do that. It's also part of the reason why there's some parts of I Think You Should Leave where I just like at that point where you start laughing, like crying laughing, like I get like physically uncomfortable because like I can't stand it anymore. I can't.
That's interesting because The Office is a lot of cringeworthy stuff in there, and you can handle that.
I feel like they never take it to that level where it's like,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's stuff that Michael Scott, there are gags like that. I just feel like he never that level that Larry David will go to or that Tim Robinson will go
Yeah.
to at certain points. It's like I felt that way about some of the stuff on like Ben Stiller did on like
Ben
those
Stiller show?
Meet the Parents
Oh
movies.
yeah, that too.
But the last point I wanted to make about the stuff that because my wife will just like decide she's just out on something and then she's just done. Like when Jesse Plemons' character on Breaking Bad killed that little kid.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert, like late, I forget what season it was. After that, she was like, I don't want to watch it anymore. And I had to like plead with her, like, look, we got to keep watching. But she did that on like a season of like Dancing with the Stars where someone got kicked off too early. She's like, I'm done. I'm out. We're not watching anymore. I was like, okay. So if she decides she's just out, then she doesn't tolerate it. Whereas I'll like keep watching a season or do something.
You're
like
invested. You're like,
just to
see, I'm gonna see this story through. I got to see how this ends.
Which I guess I kind of respect. Like she has maybe a little bit more respect for her own time than I do. I don't know.
Yeah, I started this show. I'm going to finish it.
Yeah, and so, but the crazy thing is like the last thing I want to say about just with watching with my wife is you did this with I Think You Should Leave maybe, but for me some of the greatest highs and biggest disappointments come from like when I have a show that I want to get her into and then like finding out if it sticks. So the positive example I have is Fleabag, which
that show's awesome.
Watched and absolutely
adored. That show's amazing.
And I said, listen, you got to watch this. And she didn't really want to watch it at first, but she really got into it, and we watched it together, and we rewatched it again recently.
Yeah.
So that is something like I shouldn't say we didn't rewatch it recently, but anyways, we rewatched it. And we love that show. That was easy to digest because it was like 12 half-hour episodes total.
And she's brilliant.
But phenomenal.
I mean, that started as a play, like she would break down the fourth wall.
Yeah, she did that performance.
Her talking to the camera, she would talk to the audience and break down the fourth wall. So that was, I think she did it at the Edinburgh a comedy festival or whatever. But she's amazing. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she's great.
Yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So that was one where I showed it to her and she was like, yeah, you're right. This is great. And we've had other ones like that, but some notable ones recently that I absolutely adore. Severance, which is only just had its first season on Apple TV.
I'm obsessed. And we talked about this, right? I was sharing with you. So, those memes of like, that guy, a couple in bed and the male's leaning over this way and the woman's leaning over this way. And there's those thought bubbles and the woman's like, what is he thinking about? And then it's some random thing. Well, one night we were sitting in bed and Alex shows me her phone and it was like that meme. And it was like, something, it was some I don't even remember what it was, but she was like, this is you. I was like, oh yeah, that's me, whatever. It was like something like, I'm thinking about, is he thinking about someone else? And it was like, oh, some sports thing. And she goes, she goes, what are you thinking about right now? Like kind of kidding. And I go, do you really want to know? And she goes, yeah. And I go, I'm thinking about what those numbers mean in Macro Data Refinery in Severance and why they're so scary. And dude, I look like she saw a ghost. She goes, Jesus Christ. I go, I can't. This was like months after we finished watching it. Like it wasn't
it was no longer topical. It
was so far past. But I think about Severance once a week. If I'm being honest, partly because like I'm not saying I'm pro Severance, but I'm not saying I'm not pro Severance. Like I get it. There are some things that I wish I was not even coherent for. I would knock myself out to just get through a really tough time. Like
I understand.
100%. Now, yes, there's obviously a lot of problems that come with severance.
Yeah, probably a few.
But yeah, I remember that one time she asked me, she goes, "What do you think about it?" I go, I'm thinking about those numbers and severance and why are they so scary? Like what could it mean? She was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I couldn't, similarly, I could not get Robin into severance.
That's a hard part because it took me a while to get Alex into that. But you got to get to episode 3. I think once you know, I think the hook again. Alex needs a hook, and I think that's how I know that I've kind of figured like what she'll invest in and what she won't, and the hook I think comes in season 3 where you realize Patricia Arquette is his neighbor, and then you're like, oh shit, like
spoiler
exactly.
Alert.
Please,
I think
for years.
Like a year, but yeah. So Robin makes a good point too. She says, I think sometimes some of these shows come by their hook a little too easy because usually it's just a dead kid or something that they got. Like that's what they try to hook you in with.
Seems
and
she's not a fan of like dead of like kids getting.
She hates when the show starts with a dead kid.
Yeah.
So like Mayor of Easttown and the Others?
Yeah, I mean,
or The Outsiders.
Yeah, my sister Anna, she's married to a neuroscientist, and we're watching Mindhunter. When Mindhunter came out, I love obsessed that show. I just rewatched it. It's phenomenal. I read an article about why they never did a season 3, and David Fincher, who directed it, was like, it's actually a really expensive show to shoot. You wouldn't think so, but there's like old 1960s, 70s prison. Like he goes, it's actually a period piece. Anything is very expensive to shoot. You have to get cigarettes and everything has to be. I mean, I remember Matt Weiner talking about how expensive Mad Men was. Like, he goes, it had to be popular because it was so expensive to make, and AMC was not doing a ton of TV at that time. So he goes, we had to have like unbelievable viewership to ask for the budget that we were asking for. But I remember, so Mindhunter is essentially this guy who works for the FBI, and he interviews serial killers and tries to figure out why they are the way that they are to try to predict, what are the warning signs of someone before they commit a crime or these serial killers. And my brother-in-law, who's a neuroscientist, does this. He interviews patients and inmates about their lack of empathy and why they do these things. And this guy in Mindhunter, Jonathan Groff, the actor, is essentially pioneered my brother-in-law's career more, and it's fascinating. So I call my sister, I call her, I go, Anna, this guy pioneered your husband's career. Like, you have to, it's unbelievable. Alex and I were so in. Alex also loves like true crime. That's another thing she loves. She loves a podcast, My Favorite Murderer. So she's totally in. But so I tell Anna, my sister, to watch it. I go, this is your husband. This is the guy who pioneered your husband's career. You have to watch it. It's amazing. And she also, before kids, got me like really into like the psychology of serial killers. Like, she gave me all these documentaries about like Ted Bundy and Dahmer and all these, and I would just watch these documentaries and just endlessly fascinating about the warning signs about like hurting animals as a young child and how that's a huge warning sign of someone who just lacks empathy and things like that. So I tell her to watch the show. She calls me the next day. And she goes, hey, I watched that show. I go, isn't it amazing? She goes, nope. She goes, 10 minutes in the first episode, there's like a dead kid. She goes, I can't, because Clark, her first son, had recently been born. She goes, I can't anymore. And she hit before kids. She was introducing me to all these different like serial killers and the psychology. And I was fascinated by it. So and she was like, I cannot watch it. I have a son now. She goes, nothing about kids. It's completely off the table, even though this couldn't be more relevant to her life,
I don't know if it was just because she had kids. I think she was kind of like this before that too. But Robin is very similar. But but again, she just says like in a lot of these ones, Mindhunter, Blackbird, which is another Apple TV.
Yeah, that's great.
Apple TV getting a lot of shout outs here.
Yeah.
That one has Taron Egerton and one of the guys from Mindhunter, I think.
Yes, that's correct. Apple TV, if you want to sponsor my my pilot that I pitched, Bachelor Party River, yeah, you know where to find me.
They too are listening.
Yeah, well, Apple, like dude, of course. Everyone's listening but my mom. And again, Mom, happy birthday. I love you.
So, like I said, that's my the last thing I need to say, and we've gone on for TV way too long at this point. But getting to the third episode, The Last of Us, that was just on. That had a couple of the episodes that were a couple of the best episodes I've seen in a long time. The third episode is widely lauded as a great episode of television. And I just desperately wanted to get Robin at least to the third episode with me on a rewatch, and she just couldn't do it. She couldn't get past the first episode. She's like, I'm not watching this.
It was great.
Because you turn it on, she's like, that girl's going to die. I will not watch it.
Yep. I get it, man. Family's interesting. Speaking of family, our family has unique vernacular for certain words that we just made up, and we just speak. It's the preferred nomenclature within our family, and we speak it into existence as if it is in Webster's dictionary. And I'll give you some of the words. So here's what I'll do. We'll play a game. I'll say the word, and then you will say the meaning of the word. All right. Okay. So your family says beep and grunt. What does beep and grunt mean?
These ones are totally made up. I think by my dad.
Well, I've adopted beep.
Beep and grunt are pee and poop. And that is what we learned as kids. That is what we said. If I have to go beep, I have to go grunt.
Dude, I use beep all the time. I think it's so funny. And I'll be like, and I use it all the time now. Not even thinking about it. But like, we're leaving the house. I'm like, I hold on, I have to go beep real quick.
I have abandoned those two. I feel terrible admitting this on the podcast. I've abandoned those.
Beep kills me. It's so funny. I think it's hilarious.
We used growing up. We used pooker and fundi.
All right, what is? Yeah, I'm getting to that. That's mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had a whole structure here.
Okay, go ahead. I'm messing.
So what does fundi mean?
Fundi is butt.
What does pooker?
Your butt.
What does pooker mean?
And pooker is penis. This is where like Robin often makes fun of these words.
Rightly so.
They're made up words.
Really validated in that.
But she's adopted pooker. She thinks that's great. She won't use fundi. I was like, you can't have one without the other. You gotta go with one.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna use pooker, you have to use fundi. I mean,
I don't understand how you could do one with it. It's unconscionable to do one without the other. But pooker made it. Fundi did not.
What about broomy and lunk? What does that mean?
Broomy and lunk are pasta and the meat sauce that goes with the pasta.
And I named my dog Broomy.
There you go. These are not now. So Robin often puts all 6 of these words together and says these are all made up words.
Right.
I said, well, language is a construct. All of them's made up. Okay, if you want to be technical about it. But broom and lunk specifically are part of the Sicilian dialect from where our family came from.
Where Piana de Albanese?
Yes, because that's an Albanian, a mesh of cultures from Albanian minorities who went to Sicily. The language they speak is a regional dialect called Arboresh. I have done extensive research into this, and I'm not going to do the screen sharing, the slick screen sharing thing.
You can do it. I'll share it.
But do we have some show notes we could do? We could leave some links.
Yeah, I'll throw. Yes, give me some links, and I'll throw them in the show notes.
But broom. And it since there's different variations that have gone to broomy. That means pasta in these regional dialects.
Interesting.
And lunk means sauce or juice in the Arboresh regional language.
I thought that was just BS, like for sure. I thought they just made it up.
Broom and lunker. Those are legit words that if you went to Piano de Albanies, they would know what you're talking about.
For sauce, my mom's family says suku.
Yeah, I've heard suku or sugu. I think I heard somewhere. Yes. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the same thing. It's because where's your what's your mom's maiden name?
Messina. Messina,
Messina, of course.
Which I think is a town or some village in Italy, I think.
Yes, that's probably a little bit different dialect. My dad would be so disappointed I didn't remember Messina. He always thought your Grandpa Dom was just the coolest person.
And that's my son. My son's really middle name is Dominic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Italy?
Yeah, but not like, a lot of our family has done sort of the Sicily tour.
I've never been to Sicily.
Seen some of the extended relatives. I've only been I went to Rome for like an extended weekend when I was abroad.
Me too. I did that. I studied abroad in London, and for our fall break for 10 days, I went to Rome. But I was 20 with no money, so it was very
not quite the cultural experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and your older sisters, didn't they both study abroad in
Italy? Did, yeah. I think they did a summer there. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our family since then
has gone there.
A lot of our aunts and uncles go there. We have extended family.
Fabianos, there. Correct?
Yep, the Fabianos are there. So we still are in contact with them, and some of the elder states people in our family, the aunts and uncles, have gone over there to visit and see that and done more extensive travel, and specifically down to Sicily, the area where we're all from. I haven't done that.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that. Like Alex had set up a 10-city tour for our honeymoon, which was in April of 2020, and we were going to go to the Amalfi Coast. We were going to go to Sicily. We were going to go to Piana del Albanese, which, by the way, her family is also from. We're both from the same freaking town in Sicily. Did you know that?
I think I did. I think you've told me that before. That is crazy.
Yeah. Well, when I first started dating her, I was with Nana, our grandma. We call her Nana. And I was like, yeah, I'm dating this girl. I've been dating her for a while. And she asked, what's her last name? And I said, Kucha. She goes, oh, that's interesting. She goes, how do you spell that? I said, Cuccia. She goes, oh, yeah. She goes, we have cousins. But we just call them Kusha. I go, cousins? I go, with the same last name? And she goes, yeah. I go, what? And she goes, yeah, they're from Piana de Albanese. I left the room. I call Alex. I go, where's your family from originally? And she goes, let me text my mom or my dad. And then she goes, it's Piana de Albanese. And I'm like, we need to figure out if we are related. We need to do this right now. I was freaking out, dude. I was like, they related. And then we're like,
that is
and then we did some extensive. I mean, literally, I got into it. I'm like, we can't. We got to figure this out. We got to know it, and we're not. But I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But then I was like, if this doesn't work out, this is an easy out. I'd be like, I can't. We're related. Like, what are you gonna do? But yeah, that was crazy. Okay, so we talked about TV a lot, shows, the vernacular of our interesting family. You and I are big sports fans.
Yes, we are.
Give me some of your favorite 30 for 30 docs, and I'll say before you go, I'll say mine. It's about Bo Jackson, and you introduced me to Bo Jackson because you had a book about him in your room. I used to go in your room all the time, and I was not supposed to or allowed, and I went in your room all the time and went through all your shit.
Oh, now you make me sound like Buzz from Home Alone.
He used to pound me and beat me. But you had this Lou Holtz book, you had Notre Dame stuff, and then you had this Bo, and that's how I learned about Bo Jackson, because you had some book about him. And I learned that he was the first two sport athlete. So that Bo Knows Bo or whatever, is that one, or Jordan Rides the Bus, about Michael Jordan playing minor league baseball. Those are the Fab Five is phenomenal. That one is incredible, and an underrated one. And I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Fantastic Lies, and it's about the Duke Lacrosse sexual assault scandal.
Yes.
That one was amazing because I totally had preconceived notions that those guys were guilty, and it turns out they were totally innocent, and
And isn't it
it
crazy?
was just unbelievable. But you think these privileged white kids from Duke, and you just assume that they're guilty, and there's this overwhelming amount of evidence that they weren't, and they were totally acquitted and justified for it. It was interesting. So those are some of mine.
That is amazing. So I thought a lot about this, and it was cool because I went in, like, I looked at the library of them on like ESPN Plus, and I was
There's so many.
First of all, there's so many. I couldn't believe how many I've seen.
I've watched so many. I've watched so many. It's ridiculous. How many hours of 30 for 30s I've watched? I've watched almost all of them.
And the crazy thing is, there's still others. Like, I haven't watched Catholic versus Convicts yet, which is
that's a great one.
Miami, but I've watched the U on Miami.
That one's great, but the Catholic versus Convicts one is unbelievable. How the T-shirt was made, the guy who made the T-shirt, the University of Notre Dame students. I mean,
I gotta watch this one.
You're a University of Notre Dame graduate. I can't believe you haven't watched that one. It's fast. It's amazing.
I also never watched the Manti Te'o documentary on Netflix either.
Alex and I both watched it, and it's really good. Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Totally vindicate. Like, oh man, that guy's totally.
So I don't know why it's some of those things that feel a little bit too close to home. I don't know why I haven't.
Because it's Notre Dame related, and you just don't feel comfortable.
I don't know what it is, because there's one category. I'm just thinking about like categories of like 30 for 30s that I love. All the Chicago ones.
85 Bears.
One of my top. The 85 Bears are one of my top.
That's great.
But Catching Hell.
That one's amazing. And Alex Gibney, fantastic. I think Alex Gibney did that, and he did one of my favorite documentaries of all time. It is Going Clear, The Church of Scientology on HBO, which is probably one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. The other one, probably Citizen 4, I think, or by Laura Poitras. It was the Edward Snowden documentary of like as it was like he had escaped Booz Allen and he was holed up in like Hong Kong in a hotel, and it was like as it was going on. I gotta watch this. It's fascinating. It was really interesting.
Did you see Icarus?
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's one of my
that one's amazing.
Yeah. So again, the Chicago ones are all good, like Long Gone Summer, which is not just in Chicago, but has Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, but I have an issue with that too. Like I feel like there was a celebration of the home run chase, which I get, which is a part of my childhood, the '98 home run chase with McGwire and Sosa, which was a feel good story, but they barely touched on the steroids, and I felt they were way too soft.
Wait, they did what?
Long Gone Summer? You talking about
they were doing steroids?
What are you talking about?
I was trying to make a joke. Don't worry about it.
But that drove me crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right. They went a little light on that, but I think that was the point. To say that's how people got back into baseball.
Yes. But when I was watching it, I was like, nah. It left me kind of flat, even though it was such a wonderful time of my childhood. Like, it brought back so many great memories. But it just tells you that people can't associate those two without the steroid thing. You know, like ESPN tried to bring you back to '98, and they did, but they also. That's why I felt a little flat.
If you don't talk about the steroids, it's irresponsible.
It's irresponsible too, but they didn't do it in a way that I almost needed them to do it, and the depth, because I know a lot about McGuire's appearance in court. Like, I'm not going to talk about the past and how embarrassing that was, and just terrible for his legacy. And it would be like doing a Bonds documentary and not talking about performance enhancing drugs or Belco. You'd be like, what is this? And then really going into it. I think that's why I just was like, this is fun, but it left me a little flat.
I understand what you're saying. But I do like the Chicago ones. You said like bringing you back to your memories. That's why like '90s basketball ones are like my sweet spot.
Fab Five, dude. Fab Five is what.
Fab Five, Bad Boys. This Magic Moment.
Magic Moment is great. Yeah.
But the Bad Boys one is fantastic. The Dream. It's not a 30 for 30, but the Dream Team documentary that Turner did.
NBA TV. That one's amazing. And I just got my my Jordan blue.
You got your
I just
jersey?
got it, and I'll be wearing it at Ribfest if you're going to come in for that.
Well, I am going to be there.
Well, I'll be wearing that jersey. It was so one of my favorite stories from that doc is Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson. He goes Jordan every night. We up playing cards, 2-3 in the morning. Then he go play like 18 holes of golf. He go out there like 30, scores 36 points, whatever. Be up till 2-3 in the morning playing cards again. Blah blah blah. He goes. This went on for like 4 nights, and then he goes, "All right, come on." Because come on, MJ. And Michael Jordan's talking to Magic Johnson. He goes, "Come on, I got MJ. Because let's go out." And he goes, "Michael." He goes, "I need to sleep. I can't do what you do. Like I just can't do it." And then talking about the greatest scrimmage of all time.
Oh, Monte Carlo scrimmage,
which is amazing. And Coach K is like, Chuck Daly threw that practice. Like he wanted them to realize like you could lose, and he was doing that on purpose. And then he erased the scoreboard before the media came in, so they couldn't see the score. That documentary is not a 30 for 30, but that's one of the most amazing ones I've seen.
And technically, Last Dance isn't either, and those are probably the two best
That one's awesome. Yeah, I like rewatch that as I'm like on the Peloton or working out. But it was interesting, the Bad Boys documentary, to hear John Sally explain like what are the Jordan rules, and they go, you force him to his left, okay? You force him to his left. He goes, the second he gets in the paint, you hit him. He goes, you don't let him get up in the air. He goes, you bump him, you hit him, you don't let him get up if he's in the paint. And then he goes, and if he goes baseline, he goes, then Mahorn and Lambier are gonna fucking level him. he goes, those were essentially the Jordan rules. He goes,
that one's.
He goes, if you get in the paint, he goes, you immediately. Chuck was like, make contact with him. Don't let him off the ground. And he goes, and if he goes baseline, he goes, Mahorn and Lambier just knock him to the ground. Thoughts?
So that one is fantastic. But in my top 3, the other 90s basketball one that is my favorite, and this is a particular special thing like Catching Hell, where I love that 30 for 30s will pick out like a moment, and it's Winning Time. The Reggie Miller,
Spike Lee,
New York Knicks one. It's fantastic.
That's a great one.
That's a top 3.
Everybody
so my top 3
that's a great one, and I think that's universally loved by everybody. It's just really, it's well done. It's a great story.
It's very well done.
Also, too, Reggie Miller is great on a mic too. Also, obviously, Spike Lee too. So that does play a role in that as well. Like it's a great,
they're perfect.
It's a great story, but also Reggie Miller is a phenomenal storyteller. Like he's great. He's great in The Last Dance. He comes on all the time on Dan Patrick when I would listen, and he's a phenomenal storyteller. He's got a great memory.
And I don't like him as a color analyst on NBA games, unfortunately. Isn't that weird?
That's weird. Barkley's amazing. He's great.
Well, Barkley's he's another level. But so top 3 are 85 Bears, Winning Time, which I just mentioned. And the other random pick is the 2 Escobars, which I absolutely love.
I have not seen that.
Gotta watch it. Fantastic.
Is that about soccer?
It's about I forget his first name, but yes, the Escobar.
You grew up a big soccer fan, right? I mean, you played soccer
and
for
the '94
years.
Olympics. Yeah, and the '94 World Cup was in the U.S. I got to go to a game with my dad.
That's so cool.
Colombia lost to the United States. That Escobar that was on the team was one of their best players and gave up a goal. Spoiler alert! And then got killed back in Colombia.
Whoa.
And it ties in the other Escobar, Pablo Escobar, and
Alex and I are in season 2 of Narcos, which is awesome. That's another show we both like to watch.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it's great.
So the 2 Escobars and how the joining of the 2 and their fates is a phenomenal documentary. You should see that.
Gotcha. So there's some great basketball ones. And I wanted to transition into talking about the NBA a little bit. Now, full disclosure, I have lost a lot of interest in the NBA for a long time, probably until Steph Curry came into the league. And it's really grasped my attention. Like he is such a unique player, and his skill level, his ball handling, his awareness on the court, his spacing is just phenomenal. The way he maneuvers, and he's the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, it's just It's awesome. Also, someone who isn't super athletic and was shooting threes before it was analytically cool by Daryl Morey. Like, I was doing that shit in like the late 90s, but that's just because I was fat and slow and lazy. So, but it's just amazing, and the Warriors and Kerr and the ball movement, and I'm just if they're on TV, I'm watching them. And he's become one of.
It's a fantastic
It's
experience.
amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's a lot like poetry in motion. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but it is. If you like basketball, they are phenomenal to watch. And when they're on and they're shooting, you literally cannot beat them. But I was curious, like, where are you with the NBA right now? Is that still your favorite sport to watch? Are you still like NBA is tops and then NFL, or where are you right now? Because for me, baseball is tops. I'm a huge baseball fan. Love the Green Bay Packers. Big NFL fan, obviously, but like baseball, I love as I get older, probably because their demographic is old 55-year-old white guys, and I keep creeping a little bit closer and closer, which is probably why I keep getting more and more invested in baseball. But I played and stuff, so where are you with like your sports watching, your investment, and what leagues?
You should have said. I mean, don't cut yourself. You should toot your own horn a little more. You're a college baseball player, former college athlete.
That's true. Briefly.
So briefly, okay. Still better than me. My sports watching, I am still very into basketball. I mean, I just listen
NBA,
to
right?
Specifically NBA. I love college basketball as well, but NBA specifically. I just listened to, I'm not kidding you, a 5-hour podcast of people like previewing and like doing a mock
draft.
No, not a mock draft, a mock salary cap, like free agency period. They divide up the teams and they pretend to be each team and go through. I listened to 5 hours of that. I'm just riveted. Podcast? I love it. It's called Dunked On NBA, and the first hour of it is for the free ads, and then I actually pay once a year to get like the other 3 hours of these nerds.
I've never paid for a podcast. That's dedication.
That's how committed I am. I don't gamble on the NBA. I don't gamble on sports unless I go to Vegas for March Madness. But I love the NBA.
So do you just like all of the NBA or one specific team you follow?
Yeah, pretty much all of the NBA. Hey,
what's up, buddy?
Oh, the kids are, hey, who's your favorite NBA player?
That is actually really hard. Maybe LeBron James or
LeBron James?
That's a good pick.
Maybe.
Yeah, look, he has jersey T-shirts of LeBron James, of Luka Doncic. He loves Nikola Jokic after this year's playoffs. But what I wanted I saw the episode with your dad, and I know that you don't like when the family members interrupt. So we'll try to keep
it's totally cool, man. It's fine.
But
you mean when Anna hijacked my podcast? That's okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's all good.
What I wanted to say is I love the NBA. I've always loved the NBA. I started out as a Lakers fan because my parents got me a Magic Johnson uniform when I was like 5 or 6.
You're also a huge Nick Van Exel fan.
And then I became a huge Nick Van Exel fan. Had his jersey.
Didn't he knock someone on the scores table? Didn't he like?
Yes, that was. We don't like to talk about that.
Oh yeah, yes. Sorry. Your son's here, but yeah, trying to set a good example.
We're fine. That's not why. I'm just saying because I don't want to sully Nick Van Exel's reputation on this pod. He's a big Packers fan, by the way.
Is he really?
Yeah,
wow,
pretty random.
That's super random.
Huge Packers fan. Yeah, Nick Van Exel was one of my favorites, and I didn't even like the Bulls as much as I should have growing up in Illinois and Iowa because I was such a big Lakers fan. It's like in the '91 finals, I was rooting for the Lakers.
Dude. And my dad took you to Chicago Bulls games. We hooked it up with tickets.
Well, I mean, eventually, I obviously
spilled the coke on that woman. Don't have to talk about it.
That could be talk about a feature film or its own podcast. That story is
well, it's interesting. Seth Meyers is doing a podcast with his brother, and it's called Family Trips, and he's interviewing different comedians about their family trips, which we could easily do that.
Oh,
family stories. I mean, my God, we could do one podcast on like Maria Seatbelt. We could do another podcast on you golfing with your dad, which is one of my all-time all-time favorite stories.
30 for 30 on that. That would be phenomenal.
Oh my God, golfing with Dad. Jesus. That's one of my all-time favorite stories. You told it once and it was burned in my brain, and I don't want it to get forgotten, so I bring it up as much as I possibly can. Or my favorite
all the time.
Your dad has so many great stories, or my favorite one. So your dad has a bit of a short temper. I'll make this quick. And one of my favorite stories about your dad is where me and Frank and I are across the street chipping golf balls, and you're in the front. You're in the driveway shooting hoops, and your dad's in the garage, and we're chipping into your yard, but we're pretending that the driveway is water. We're trying to chip over the water. And we're using real balls, but we're not hitting it hard, and we're barely hitting it. And your other neighbor is out doing something, and I don't know what the dynamic between your dad and that neighbor, if they're still around or whatever, but
not anymore. But
it was not great. It was quite contentious, and so no one can make your dad fly off the handle faster than you, and your dad has a short fuse, but no one can make him lose his temper quicker than you can.
We just could get each other.
It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And Frank frustrated your dad, but Frank never made your dad fly off the handle. It was you. And we're chipping, we're having a good time. It's really fun. And your dad's in the garage, and he turns to us and he goes, "Hey guys, just be careful where you're hitting the balls." It's all he said. He turns around, you're shooting hoops as you're kind of going up for a layup, and you go, "Jesus, Dad, what are you afraid of, Clint?" And he turns around and he goes, "Nick, you want me to kick your ass?" Frank and I fell on the grass, dying laughing. He was chill. He wasn't angry at all. It was just very calm. He goes, "Hey guys, don't hit it. Just be careful where you're hitting the ball." And then you go, "Jesus, Dad, what are you afraid of, Clint?" And he goes, "Nick, you want me to kick your ass?"
His name was Kent. Very good. Very good.
Sorry. I've been saying Clint.
I would have never said the word Jesus in front of my dad at that age.
No,
otherwise the story is 100% accurate.
You were older. You were.
I still might not have. I don't know if I would have said Jesus, but either way,
you definitely said. I swear you said. You might have said it under your breath, but you said you were like, "Jesus, Dad, what are you afraid of, Kent?" And he fucking flipped. He was so normal, so calm, and he turned around and dude, on a dime, wanted to kill you. Oh, so funny. It killed me. It's my favorite thing.
That's fantastic.
It was so great.
So just to tie a bow on the basketball thing, I love basketball. That is still my number one. I watch a lot of soccer. I enjoy that, but I probably like football better, college and pro.
More than basketball?
Oh no, I'm saying more than
so
than
do you
soccer.
have
but basketball's the top.
So I have MLB TV where I can watch all the games. Tonight, it's weird. I'll watch the Cubs and stuff. It's weird. What I usually watch, I watch falling asleep. I watch baseball going to bed, and I watch a lot of Angels and Dodger games because they're on later. So I see a lot of Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and it's great. It's awesome. And
it's also criminal that they're not better known nationally.
Oh my God,
I think
dude, it's unbelievable. If their pitching didn't suck, people would really know how. I have an Angels buddy, a friend who's an Angels fan. And I was telling him this. I was like, yeah, I fall asleep watching Angels games, and these players Trout and Ohtani, and he goes, they do it every day. He goes, Trout's been doing this for 10 years. He goes, and no one cares because we can't pitch and we never get in the playoffs. And so
the fact that he's toiling in near obscurity is crazy.
And Shohei is such a unicorn. I mean, last night against the White Sox, he goes 3 for 3. He pitches almost 7 shutout innings. He hits 2 home runs and an RBI double. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's probably the greatest game a player has ever had in the history of baseball. but it's on the West Coast and it's in Anaheim. It's not in LA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Do you
we've
subscribe to
been
like
watching
NBA
more.
TV? Like, do you get access to all the games?
Well, I don't pay for League Pass myself, but this past year, one of my college buddies gifted
That's
me a
awesome.
subscription they
That's
won
amazing.
through like DraftKings, and it was so good. I might have to get it. Like I've had season ticket for NFL or Sunday ticket for NFL before, and have gone away from it. Now that I've had a taste of NBA League Pass, I'm not sure I can go without
Yeah.
it. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's me for MLB TV. Like I gotta have it because I'll watch Yankee
Yeah.
games and then I'll watch, and then depending on who's pitching, I'll tune into that game and I'll see what the scores here. Then I'll because baseball's so great for just being like, oh, this is in the fourth inning. I don't have to worry about this now. I'll go here, or this person's pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Quick question. What I'll get you out of here. I know it's getting late. NBA, I am interested because I am invested in the Warriors. How detrimental was the Draymond preseason punch to the chemistry of the team? I think it affected it immensely, and I think it really stifled them when they were in the playoffs. I want to get your thoughts on that.
If you think it, I think it probably affected them. I mean, how could it not? I don't think it precluded them from like. What's their ceiling if that doesn't happen? Do you say they beat the
Well,
Lakers?
Poole
Okay.
was
Do they
horrible.
beat the
Poole was
Nuggets?
horrible in the playoffs. Like he was
Yeah.
like a shell of himself. He did absolutely nothing. Like if Steph wasn't putting up 50 points, they were going to lose. You know what I mean? Clay did not shoot the ball well. That does have to be noted.
That's true, but I think what I hear from other pundits about Poole is that he's kind of regarded as maybe a little bit of like inflated stats, maybe a little bit not. Maybe I wouldn't say he's not a winning player because the guy's won a title with the Warriors, but like that maybe some of his stats are a little fraudulent or his game's a little bit inflated by his previous situation, and he's gonna put up tons of shots on the Wizards now, and we'll see if he's as efficient or as good as he was with the Warriors. So my thought is like my two thoughts on it, I guess, I would say number one, if Draymond punching him was maybe a reflection of like the organization didn't come down harder on Draymond, is it because the video came out, or I should say, even after the video came out? I thought that was kind of a reflection of the fact that maybe the organization was like, yeah, he kind of deserved it. Like this guy's had it coming. Like he doesn't. He's a little presumptuous in his role and some of that. So that's part of what. So I wonder if there was already going to be a ceiling on how good they could be as he was getting a little too big for his britches, so to speak. And also, I don't know, even if that didn't happen, with Wiggins having been out for most of the season with some personal issues and some injuries, and Clay not being quite what Clay's been, I just don't see him beating the Nuggets and getting out of the West. But I could see him beating the Lakers.
Who's the most impressive player right now in the NBA, in your opinion?
The most impressive?
Who's the best player?
Jokic. Oh, Jokic or Giannis. They're the most. They're the most unique, and like this, they have a singular impact on the game that's sort of unstoppable.
Why is Jokic
like
so hard to handle, to guard with Denver? Like what?
Because he's an unbelievable passer. He's just such a phenomenal passer. This is kind of dovetailing into my last point that I was going to make about like watching this with my boys, is that we watched like a 5-minute like Jokic passing compilation. And because sometimes if I turn on the TV and if they start barking like their suggestions at what they want to watch, which is never what I want to watch, but if I put on basketball, a lot of times that has a pretty high approval rating and I don't get a lot of complaints. And I put this on, and it was weird because I'll put it on without saying a word, and I'll just
kind of see like if they notice.
Yeah, and the eyes get big, and like my middle son Wally, who came in, he's 6 now. He has taken after me in terms of loving the NBA, and he will shoot in the driveway endlessly. Yeah. Loves shooting hoops, loves watching basketball,
We have a little tiny, like a little Tykes one in the family room, and he loves shooting on that or shooting outside on our big hoop. Just loves it. So I like that he will get into that. Like me, he probably will never be physically gifted enough to do anything with it, but we'll see. I just love watching them love basketball. And when the bubble playoffs happened in 2020, he really took to the Lakers and loved LeBron James. Cool. Now he loves Austin Reeves. So he probably won't. He may end up getting re-signed by the Lakers. If he doesn't, I don't know what Wall is going to do. And Vito loved the Heat and really gravitated towards Jimmy Butler. And he has like multiple like Jimmy Butler jersey shirts. And that one is like, I'm proud of myself because like, first of all, they picked guys that are like still on the same team, so like the jerseys like are still in style, which is great. Yeah. Which all the Mayor hand-me-down Cubs shirts that we've gotten over the years, and the Bears ones, like nobody's on the team anymore.
Oh, that Javi Baez jersey, he's on Detroit now.
Yeah, the ones we get from Aunt Jenny and Uncle Brian are fantastic, and we're very grateful for them. But nobody's on the team anymore. I think like for half a year, Rizzo was still on the team when Vito had one of his shirts, but everybody else is like, Vito's like, who's that? I was like, oh, he was on the team like 6 years ago.
So here's this Mark Grace jersey from '91. Oh, cool. Who's number 17 Grace? He used to play for the Cubs a little while ago.
So I like that they can still wear those. And I think like for Vito specifically, like how cool is it now, especially after it's been proven out again, like to be a Jimmy Butler fan and have a Jimmy Butler shirt. All the kids love Steph Curry, as they should, or Giannis or Luka or now Jokic. And everyone likes LeBron. But like Jimmy Butler, like I feel like if somebody saw that, they'd be like, "Oh wow, that's a true fan." Like that.
Yeah, it's like a little, it's like a little inside baseball. It's like, yeah, everybody knows LeBron, and everyone knows Steph Curry, but like Jimmy Butler is like, dude, he's a baller. Like he's real good.
Yeah. So I feel like I've set up
That's
my
awesome.
son. It's like introducing your kid to the Beatles early on. You know.
Speaking of the Beatles, did you watch that Get Back documentary on Disney Plus?
Great.
Oh my god.
Phenomenal.
When McCartney's trying to figure out Get Back, like he's just trying to figure
it's so
just
cool.
to watch an origin story, to see it happen in real time. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was that was so
I don't
cool.
remember exactly how close they were, but like for us to get The Last Dance and Get Back,
was amazing.
Within a few months. My recollection is like The Last Dance was in the summer, and then Get Back was like Thanksgiving or
something
Christmas
like that
same year. Two
incredible,
like all-time treasure trove documentaries. Like, how lucky are we?
Yeah, that was amazing. I remember listening to Peter Jackson. Someone notified him of it. He goes, we have all this Beatle documentary, but it was like Jordan. Jordan had full creative license over that content. Like it couldn't get released without Jordan's, approval. Imagine all the stuff we didn't see, by the way. I mean, Ken Burns was interviewed about The Last Dance when it came out. They're like, Ken, this 10-part documentary of the Bulls, you must be fascinated. And he goes, I'm not. And he goes, and I haven't watched it. And he goes, and I won't watch it. And they go, what are you talking about? He goes, because I would never give the main subject of my documentary final cut over my stuff. He goes, I would never agree to that. And to some extent he's right, because Jordan only allowed to see what he wanted you to see. You didn't see, I guarantee there was way worse stuff than that, and he didn't allow you to see it. But us being fans, we're like, we'll take anything. We don't care. Like I watch The Last Dance all the time. I don't care. It's phenomenal content. But just imagine the stuff you didn't see. People said he was Pippen just recently came out and said he was a terrible player. I completely disagree with that. And obviously there's some serious jealousy issues going on there. But was he a shitty teammate? Was he like an asshole? Like 100%. Like probably. I bet he was horrible. I think Jordan even said that in the documentary. He goes, if you didn't come to play, if you didn't work your butt off in practice, he goes, it was going to be hell for you. He goes, I was going to ride you forever. He goes, until you get on my level. Whew.
Well, and during the pandemic, we actually had a couple of like Zoom calls among the cousins.
That was true. That's true.
And the extended family talking about that. I mean, it was just such a rich text. I mean, it was just amazing. And like you said, we probably didn't even get to see a lot of the good stuff, or maybe the more compelling stuff. But what it was still like top tier documentary, at least in terms.
Right.
And we were Chicago Bulls fans.
Yeah, I know. And so back to my Peter Jackson thing. So the way Get Back got created was he was with some guy, and they were like they were in London or some place, and they're like, yeah, we have all this Beatles documentary, but we don't know what to do with it. They're like, we're gonna make a documentary about it, but he's like, I don't know. He's like, we don't know who would do it, and he's like, I'll do it. Like, can I take a look at it? Like he like almost raised his hand. He goes, I've made movies before, like if Lord of the Rings, maybe King Kong, maybe you've heard of him. He goes, can I look at it? And he was like
going to like a yard sale, and like some grandma's like, I don't know what to do with all these old baseball cards of Mickey Mantle. Like, oh my gosh, are you serious?
It was just sitting there for years, and he goes, and he had to get McCartney and Ringo's sign off, obviously, but a guy Peter Jackson with the resume of him, my God, of course, but this guy was like, yeah, we don't really know what to do with it. We were thinking about making a documentary about it, but we don't really know who to take it to. And he was like, can I look at it? I'll do it. It was so funny him explaining it. He was like, he couldn't believe.
That's incredible.
He said it was like buried treasure. He goes, when he started watching that footage, he paused it and looked around and see if anyone else. He made sure he was like alone. Like he couldn't believe what he was watching.
Oh God, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's almost like in Pulp Fiction when they open the briefcase, but you never actually see what's in it, and then they close it. All right, we'll get out of here. Fatherhood. So things you're excited to share with. So you're sharing basketball with your sons. Things I'm excited. I have a 2-year-old son. So I'll ask you first. Other than the basketball, what are some of the things that you're excited to share with your sons?
Well, Vito, my oldest, so we love watching basketball, but he's getting into baseball. That's his sport.
Really?
And so knowing that the Mayors all play baseball, I'm very excited for him to be back this summer and get to play catch with a couple of those guys. And, I mean, it must hurt now that, it sounds like Charlie's kind of taken over as like the best baseball player in our family.
He threw a no-hitter. I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
He's taking the reins. Charlie Mayer, unbelievable ball player. All those Mayer kids are good athletes, except for Angelo. What happened to that guy?
He's more into slapstick comedy that makes no sense. That's kind of his thing. That's why him and I get along.
That makes sense, I guess. But yeah, Ella and Charlie, just every other day I hear about them killing it. On
very proud of them.
Anyways, my point was just so Vito loves baseball, so getting
like the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, but so we watch games.
And they're good.
We haven't even taken them to a Diamondbacks game, but we've been to. We went to go see a Rockies game when we were in Colorado with my family last summer.
Awesome.
It's great. It's a great place to catch a game. And we'll go to a D-backs game later this summer. But Matt Christopher books.
I used to read those all the time.
Vito, seeing him like get into those kind of on his own, like finding those and like kind of pushing him, like, oh yeah, he found one, and he started reading. He's like, I love this. I was like, there's like hundreds of these, man. You can read these.
I remember my mom because she was like, I have to get my son to read. He's constantly watching television, and I'm worried that he can't read. So she got me into those books, and I got really into it. And then there was one book. This is like partly like I have this sneaking. I read words wrong, which I think I may be dyslexic. It's never been diagnosed, but she gave me the book, and it's Mom Wins the Peanut, and I'm like, Mom, I don't want to read a book about a mom. Like this is your sports books. I want to read a sports book, and she goes, it's the pennant. Mom wins the pennant. So it's like this mom winning. But I was like, all these. She was like, which ones do you like? I like all these, but this one I don't like. She's like, why not? I go, because I don't want to read about mom winning a peanut. She's like, it's the pennant. I'm like, oh. Sorry. And it was a baseball one. And it happened and ended up being one of my favorite books in the series.
That's fantastic.
Also,
that kind of thing is.
Can I mention your wife describing your eldest son Vito was so funny to me because she said he's a mini Nick, like he's a mini you. She goes, she'll go. He wants to go to the library, like and like read books, and I'm like, I don't want to go to the library. Like, Mom, can we like get some books? She's like, yeah, I guess we'll go to the library.
Yeah.
She's like, he's like, he reads books all the time. He like wants to read. And then she said like, you guys are like walking to school or something, or you're doing something outside, and he's like, who's that? Who's that guy? Where's he going? And she's like, I don't know. What's wrong? Like, why are you? He was like, who's that guy right there? Like, where's he going? She was just like, what's wrong with this kid? Like,
yes,
like very precocious, very curious, like a lot of questions, reads a lot. She goes, he's a mini Nick. It's ridiculous.
So that's part of the fun, right? Is that when, as these kids get older, I was trying to explain this to Vito. I was like, there's part of you that I recognize as your mom, and I see those traits, and I'm like, that's your mom. And there's plenty that I recognize, like that's me. And then there's stuff that's like wholly his own, which is really cool as they get older. And you'll obviously see this with Theo and, the other brood of kids that I'm sure you and Alex will have soon. But as the kids get older, like being able to share that stuff with them and think like, oh, I can't wait to share this with them is cool. We were talking about like sharing a show with your wife. Like it hurts my feelings even more if like I try to share. Like they're too young for it to really. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding. It doesn't really hurt my feelings, but like I'm guarding certain movies or shows, certain like sports viewing things because I want it to be just perfect.
Yeah.
Like I want it to like I don't want to mess it up, and so. This fall, Zach and I are going to take our two oldest along with our dads to Notre Dame.
Oh my God. That's going to be amazing.
For a game. So that's going to be phenomenal. And I'm super excited to be able to do that with them. The other day, and I don't even know if we have like a perfect video of it, but like letting them listen to some music or something that you thought was cool. And my parents got me into like good stuff like James Taylor, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
like
your
stuff
mom's
that
a
is
huge
classic.
Fleetwood Mac fan, yeah.
Yes, and so like there's stuff like that they got us into that I think like, oh wow, they had really great taste. And like the other day, I don't remember how we got on it, but like my kids were singing "Eye of the Tiger"
from Rocky
by Survivor from Rocky, and they know like every word.
That's awesome.
And then somehow on our YouTube feed, like the song "Sabotage" by Beastie Boys came on, and the music video where they're pretending to be these 70s cops. And they died. They think that is the best song ever.
It's a great song.
It is a good song. And I was like, wow. So this is my James Taylor and Fleetwood Mac. I shared with them the Beastie Boys and Survivor. Like my
that's amazing.
As a parent. But like that's the stuff where you're just like, that is so cool when you hear them like repeat something that you that you found really cool. So watching sports with them, sharing music or a show with them, and then the stuff that you guys find together that's new. Like I don't know if Theo's probably still a little too young to like watch and respond to a TV show.
Yeah, well, he loves Pixar, which I used to, but it's getting real old now. Oh my God! Like I used to love The Incredibles. Now I just, oh my God, it's The Incredibles, Ratatouille. These are phenomenal films. Films I used to love. I am so sick of them now. Moana, Frozen. There's about 5. There's certainly, he doesn't like cars. He hates cars. He doesn't like Encanto. Coco kind of scares him, but he's very into Pixar. I tried. He's also getting spoiled with the animation because I tried to do a throwback of like Pinocchio or like an old one. Like Alex tried to show him Cinderella from like 1958, and he was like, "This sucks." He was like, "I am not." He goes, "I can't go from Inside Out to 1958, Cinderella or whatever, Little Mermaid." He's like, "This animation sucks." He's super into Finding Nemo. He had a Finding Nemo themed birthday. But But yeah, I'm excited to share a bunch of stuff with him. My favorite types of comedy, what I think is funny, movies, TV, Harry Potter will be a very special time. Teresa's waiting. Teresa loves Harry Potter, but it's so coveted to her that she's waiting until her kids are even older than they are now to really understand. And she goes, that will be a very special time. But she goes, where they're not ready yet. Like, it has to be perfect. Like, she loved Harry Potter so much. She goes, I'm waiting until at the right time.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yep.
So yeah, I think, introducing him to sports and just teaching him about, baseball or basketball, like how to box out and setting a screen and rolling and
you have to do it. You don't have the most talent or
right, exactly. They're like, Dad, you don't do any of that. You just stand out. You go to the wing immediately and wait for someone to pass you the ball. Also, you never pass. Okay, guys, got to pass the ball for at least 4 times. 4 times. Watch Hoosiers. Be like, all right, it's really important. Got to pass. And then he'll watch me at a pickup game. I'm chucking up threes like crazy. Like, Dad, you don't do anything that Coach Dale said in Hoosiers. Be like, that's old. I'm 2023. Here are analytics. Like, I'm going to teach you about Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets. But I think that, fantastic. Showing him Jurassic Park for the first time, movies that blew me away, when he's old enough, showing him Superbad, that, just things that just knocked me out the first time I saw them. Showing me a little older, of course, but showing him, I think you should leave at some point. What's that going to be like? Also, to be like, hey, your great grandpa is in this show. You're related to that guy.
I think your second podcast, your second video podcast, should be you showing different members of our family. I think you should leave and film.
God, dude, I should have filmed my dad.
Your subsequent conversation.
I should have filmed my dad. Yeah, he actually took it a lot better than I thought. I did pick 2 sketches that were somewhat palatable. There were other sketches that I just knew he would not be able to handle. So I did that. I also showed him the hot dog one when he crashes this hot dog car and the hot dog.
You did show him that?
I did show him that. So I did. I actually showed him 3 sketches. That one I did show.
What did he say about that one?
It never goes the way you want with him ever. I just want him to laugh. I don't need a lot.
He knows that. He's not going to give you the satisfaction.
I just want him to laugh. Or my book. I just want him to be like, it was really funny. And all he talked about was how much he hated the title because it had a swear word in it. I'm just like, my God, dude, you're missing the whole point. He just can't shake that title. I'm like, okay.
Did you have to explain to him what Red Tube and Homegrown Simpson stuff was?
Red Tube, Homegrown Simpson. I did. Dude, I did. He goes, what's Homegrown Simpson stuff? I was like, Dad, it's just a different type of pork. And because he listened to the podcast because Angelo said that's his favorite line that he repeats all the time. And so I had to explain that to him. And just me explaining, yeah, Dad, there's certain types of porn and homegrown Simpson stuff.
Oh my God, that's the worst. That's the weirdest, most inverted birds and bees talk I've ever heard.
Well, he never gave me the talk, so I had to learn. I had to learn somehow. Imagine learning it from I Think You Should Leave. Be like, what's that? And now kids can just look up anything on their phone. But yeah, I think those are some of the things that I'm excited about. Just
You porn.
What?
Oh, I was blending the topics. You're excited about sharing you porn.
Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, that'll be great. At that point, it'll be some AI version where it'll be in the room. I'll be like, hey, I'll pull that down. No, I'm excited. Yeah, I honestly the biggest thing is I'm excited to see. You can already see his personality a little bit, but I'm just excited to see who he is, like his personality. I mean, your sibling, your brother and sister, my sisters, were vastly different personalities, like very, very different. And I see, he's got a temper, which Alex has a temper. He's got a short fuse. He doesn't have a lot of patience, but he loves to laugh, and his mother loves to laugh. He loves to laugh, and his barometer for comedy, like dumb stuff, like the dumber I am and the weird faces, like he dies laughing. Like he thinks like I can make like, and that's the greatest thing ever is when I can make him laugh. It's worth all of the waking up at 5 a.m., getting his milk, his, like no sleep, you're tired all the time. But like when I can make him laugh so hard that, that stuff is great. And teaching him about, like performing and the things that I'm interested in, but also interested in what he wants to do. Maybe he wants to be a ballet dancer. Maybe he wants to learn the tuba. Like I don't know what he'll be into, or maybe he'll be some environmentalist. But I'm so interested to see what he's like. I was having this conversation. This is going on. I'll wrap it up. But I was having this conversation with Martha and Jake. Martha, my cousin, Jake, one of my best friends who met my cousin, and now they're married and have a little boy, Eli. And before Eli was born, Martha was pregnant. We were over there talking about, fatherhood and motherhood and what it's like. And I go, right now, I think it was about 1. And I go, right now, it's hard for me because this is like grunt work. Like it's like changing diapers. And I go, and it's just, I'm doing it, but it's not fun. And I'm struggling because to me, it's so boring. And it's like being in the military, and it's like routine every day. And, and Martha, who's a nurse, she goes, see, I love that. She goes, I love that grunt work. I love the routine. We get up, change diapers. She goes, I love that. I'm really great at that. She goes, where I will struggle is when he gets older, and then he gets his feelings hurt, and someone is mean to him. She goes, that's when Jake is going to come in. And Alex said the same thing. She goes, if someone hurts my kid or hurts his feelings, she goes, I'll kill them. And then I go, yeah, that's when I'll probably take over and say, hey, this is a bully. He or she didn't mean it, and they're probably sad. They're probably sad inside. There something might be going on within them, and that's why they're acting out this way. And this is how you deal with that. And this is why people are mean. And like that stuff to me is more interesting and fascinating. And I'm kind of excited to get to that point, and starting to do that. I'm starting to learn his personality a little bit more. He's very naughty. He loves to be naughty, but he wants an audience. Like he's not supposed to go to my office, and he loves when he creeps in here when the door's open. Like and it's like a running back that sees an open hole, he just like darts in and he's so quick. And because I usually have it closed. But one time I tested him. One time, like, and he'll look back and want to see if I'm watching him. And one time I didn't watch him. Like he was going in my office. I knew he was, and I just pretended I didn't see him. And he went in my office, and he looked back with like that sneaky smile, and he saw that Dad didn't care, and so he was like, "This isn't worth it." And he came and he walked right back. He needs an audience.
Yep,
and he
has to have that sound.
He needs attention. He needs people looking at him, and unfortunately, he's got that from me too. He does like attention, and he does need constant praise, and he needs constant attention.
Oh my Lord, that's great. My last point on that as a way to summarize and wrap up, I will say, is that I'm also excited because again, I get to see you in person and all the rest of the family in a couple of months.
You'll be there. You'll be there for Ribfest, right at our house. You've never seen my parents' pool.
I mean, I've seen it. I don't think
you've never been there. Dude, it'll be a blast. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So I'm really pumped to be back with everybody. And as my kids are getting older now, they're in this place where, because we live in Arizona, it's tough when we're not able to be around for a lot of the holidays and for the birthdays and a lot of the things that the greater Rockford area gets together for. And so it's been really like that's another really cool thing about the kids growing up is that they get to see, like, I get to watch them through their lens, like, interact with my brother and sister, and they think like Aunt Maggie is like super cool. And
what about Uncle Frank?
And it's just all these and all these great. She wants to do all these things with us, and she's just so fun. And they think Uncle Frank is also fun, but also a crazy weirdo. And it's like, yeah, some of that just rings true no matter what. And
so funny that your kids even recognize it. Like, that's so funny.
Yeah. And a few months ago, I don't know if when for Nana's last birthday, my mom and all her sisters, all the aunts
went to Arizona. That was actually a point of contention with my dad. He was not invited. He was not happy about that.
I heard there was some. I don't want to get into the politics.
He said there was a miscommunication. That's not what I heard. I heard but again, like, but I told him, I go, Dad, do you know how many times I've been left out of stuff because the girls decided they were going to do something and never told me? And then I found out later. They're like, oh, you guys went on a trip? Like, one time they went to New York to visit Anna, and no one told me. She was, like, in Fordham in grad school. Everyone went, and then one day everyone was gone. I go, where is everyone? And they're like, oh, they all went to Fordham to visit. We're all home for, like, break or something, like Christmas break. And they're like, oh, they all went to New York for Christmas break because I was home for college. And Anna was in grad school. I go, why wasn't I invited? They're like, we didn't think you wanted to go. I go, you didn't think I wanted to go to New York City? Like, why would I not want to go? I go, no one even asked me. And now I'm just stuck here with you and Dad. I go, this sucks.
So in that vein, when they all came down here, I understand why Uncle Mike might have been a little miffed about that. But it was so special for
that must have been awesome.
For us to be able to, especially for the three boys, to like be able to interact with everybody. And when I was growing up, I was the oldest, and I like had all this time with Aunt Jenny and Aunt Lisa, like when they were pretty young, like by myself. And like I grew up with these very special relationships, as we all did, in our own way. And now my kids now have a relationship with Aunt Lisa and Aunt Cindy.
That's so cool.
And getting them to see, we call Nana in our house, we call Big Nana. And so getting to see them have that, the new generation of those relationships is so fun. So I'm so excited to be back with the family in a couple months and see everybody.
Awesome, dude. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark. Thanks so much for doing this, buddy. I really appreciate it. I didn't think it would go this long, but I sort of.
Well, when you this is just how it has to go. We're gonna do. You didn't know this was gonna happen, but here we go. So if there people are still on the podcast at the 2-hour mark, this is what
they are.
Then this is what you get. We're looking at an Arbresh phrase book. I have multiple sources and scholarly journal articles that talk about the Arbresh people. If people want to get there, I can provide the link. But this is a phrase book, and when you go down to the section on food, which is down here, sorry, this is great podcast.
Yeah, you really should have had this queued up. Come on, you had 2 hours.
I wanted to show the top. I wanted to show the top of the screen so they knew what site we were looking at. So it's not just like, oh, Nick just typed this up. So pasta. The translation is brumit.
Interesting.
And for juice, the word is lunk.
Wow. Well, there you go.
And that's one take on this Arbresh language. I have, again, multiple sources like this that I could share. Those are real words used by our long-lost relatives in Piano de Orleans.
Very cool. That's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, I learned something new, man. Thank you for educating our audience on our very specific vernacular.
I couldn't look up Pooker and Fundi and put those
because those are straight up made up, like beep and grunt. Yeah, those don't. That's like Wiki. That's like WikiWilliams.org. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for doing this, buddy. Really appreciate it. Give my love to the family, and I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks at the greatest rib fest of all time.
Likewise, I can't wait to be with you, and thanks. I'm honored to have been a part of this.
Buddy.
I hope people listen to the whole thing.
They will, except for my mom. Happy birthday, Mom. Bye, everybody.
Happy birthday, man.
Bye.
All right, see you later, John.